Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I like your cute pink headphones, Michelle.
So we'll give a few minutes for people to get here. As we get started, if people could introduce yourself in the chat and place where you work.
All right, everybody, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Kelly Puninen. I'm one of the Associate Chief Nursing Officers with APPs being one of my areas, as well as resiliency and wellness, the stroke program, and epilepsy. So thanks everyone for taking time out of their very busy day, which is their very busy week, to come to the Brown Bag. I think we have some important updates. So we're expecting Kara Dennis, our associate, one of our associates, hospital associate administrators for finance. So I anticipate she'll be here. If she will just sort of stop when she pops on. But otherwise, I think we can go ahead and move forward. All right, Michelle, are you taking this or?
I can.
Yep, go ahead.
We want to do some updates with the new fiscal year in place. For requesting time off, there's always been kind of a policy in place, but we've had some of the managers reach out wanting us to kind of reemphasize those requirements that we do not want clinics to be canceled with less than 90 days notice with manager approval. Just because those patients then have to be rescheduled and it takes time, and then patients aren't happy with being rescheduled. And so just to kind of respect patients and then the rest of the staff really want to follow up with that policy of asking for time off in a timely manner so that patients do not have to be rescheduled. And that's kind of the outpatient policy. And then inpatient, some departments have a longer protocol for requesting time off. Please reach out to your leads to find out what that is exactly. But otherwise, it must be at least 4 weeks before your desired time off, so that we can kind of block, again, for scheduling purposes, that we have enough staff to cover.
I see Kara is on, has signed on. Hi, Kara. We are ready for you if you're ready to start sharing information about our, oh my God, I love that picture in your background.
This is my conversation starter for the day. If you all want to know where this is, you might already know where it is, but it's on the 10th floor, 10 Center Tower, where they were caring for polio patients at HARBORVIEW. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Okay, so I'm Kara Dennis. I'm the Finance and Facilities Administrator for HARBORVIEW. That's why I have lots of fun pictures, old pictures like that. But it's nice to join you today. I'm responsible primarily at HARBORVIEW for presenting the organization's financial statements and putting together the long-range financial plan. I'm also involved in all things bond for the HARBORVIEW 2020 bond. And so if you have any other questions related to that, I'm happy to take those today as well. And I think Kelly had asked me to come and talk to this group about finances. And we did this a couple of years ago, Kelly, but it's been a while,
yeah,
I think, with this group. So it'll be good to just get in front of you again and chat with you a bit about this. I'll share my screen here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Super. So I wanted to walk through with you the financials that we have through May. We don't have June financials available as of yet. Our fiscal year ends in June, so there's a bit of a timing lag there, but this will kind of give you directionally where we have been going with our financials over the last year. And it is, yeah, it tells a very interesting story, I think, in a post-COVID world, or, we're still going, it's ongoing COVID world. But at this point, I will direct your attention specifically to the right-hand side of the screen, where we'll look at, year-to-date this year versus year-to-date last year. And so what we really look at HARBORVIEW are some key performance indicators that tell us throughout the month how we might be performing financially. And these are some of those indicators that we monitor very closely so that we know if we're going to hit our budget or not. And so our admissions, you can see in an interesting fashion, actually are down this year over last. So I would say when we tallied up the June admissions, we're barely going to clear, 15,000 admissions for the year, which is actually really low. It's several thousand admissions lower than we had a couple of years ago pre-COVID. And just the unique number of patients coming in the door has steadily declined over the last 5 to 7 years. What hasn't declined, unfortunately, is our patient days. So our length of stay continues to be up. So that's why the house is still so full. This group has inpatient and outpatient responsibilities, right, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
And Kara, can I just ask if people have questions, can they just sort of pop in and ask you questions, or do you want to wait till the end? Do you have time for questions?
Interrupt me, please. Yep, that's totally fine.
Thank you.
So yeah, for those of you on the inpatient side of the house, I think for everybody it feels busier, but there's actually far fewer patients. It's just they are staying longer. Our discharge challenges just continue and abound. We just have a hard time getting folks out the door once they are here for various reasons. And so that length of stay is now year to date over 10 days. And so because of that, we have fewer patients in house, but you can see the occupancy is actually higher. So we're running at 100% occupancy for the year versus last year we were at 93%. We usually run pre-COVID, we're around 90, 97, 98%. So there's definitely an uptick there. And then the other interesting phenomenon has been the ED volumes are down. So those continue to trend downward during the pandemic. So you can see we have, this year we'll have roughly 7,000 fewer ED visits. But again, folks just really stack up in the ED because they're waiting for that next available inpatient bed. So lots of things that drives there. And then at the same time that the unique number of patients is down, what's happening is surgical volumes continue to be actually really pretty steady. No real change there. This looks like it's up a bit, but we did move neuro cases out of angio and over to the hybrid OR year over year. So it's a bit misleading. I would just say inpatient surgical volumes are steady or relatively flat. So what that means is the patients that are missing or not coming in the door right now, when we look at that data, it tends to be lower acuity Medicare patients, which would make sense if you think about it. During COVID, that population has been staying home more often than not. So that's where the volume is really changed year over year for HARBORVIEW. So because that lower acuity population is not in-house, just from a math perspective, that case mix index goes up. So the case mix index is based on the discharge codes, the diagnostic related group of the discharge codes on the visit have an acuity score attributed to them. And that really is how the payers pay us. So they will pay us, essentially, the higher this number is, the more the payers are contracted to pay us. And they also only pay us a flat amount. So they might have a pre-negotiated rate per diagnosis code that they would pay us. So if that patient stays 20 days or they stay 5 days, the insurance company 9 times out of 10 is going to pay us the same amount. The average reimbursement would be $15,000 per visit. So any day that the patients are here past the length of time when they should have been discharged or could have technically gone home, we're just eating that expense. There's no incremental reimbursement. That's why that length of stay is so very important to us. And so that's that's key at the top. And then the primary clinic visits actually are down this year as well. That one looks a little misleading because we've got testing volumes in there, and those testing volumes are pretty large. If we were to annualize this, we're actually missing about, our primary care visits are down by about 15,000 visits year to date. So we normally do 80,000 visits, primary care visits, and we're about 65 right now. So again, just throughout the house, you can see lower acuity Medicare patients definitely staying at home, and that you can see that in those clinic volumes. And then outpatient surgical volumes are higher than budgeted, and we've had some greater volume of ortho and neuro cases for the year showing there. And then FTEs are actually over budget and have been this year, as we have had, just COVID preparedness, COVID surge, the mobile vans, the vaccination site, the testing site, lots of extra FTEs associated with that. And then those extra patient days, you have to, even if the patient doesn't meet that inpatient criteria anymore, obviously we still have to staff that bed. So lots of extra expense associated with that, associated with just the mix of the house at the moment. And so then the payer mix is the other key indicator that we look at each month. And there's really been almost no year over year change there. We can see a pretty steady flow of commercially insured patients in-house. So not a lot of change there. And a lot of that is driven by trauma. So no real change year over year. We're at about 31% commercial this year and last. And then you can see a small uptick in Medicaid and small downtick in Medicare, which would make sense. And then our key financial performance for the year, we're a little behind budget where we'd like to be at this point in time. We usually want to generate about a 1% margin. So if HARBORVIEW spends $1 billion this year, we want to clear 10 million at the end of it so that we can put some dollars away for further capital investment, raises for staff, etc. So I would say the story year to date, as you look at it, you can see that, you know, patient service revenue is up, but expenses are up by quite a bit as well. So we have a little extra revenue associated with some more of those surgical volumes and a higher acuity, higher case mix index. We do also have some extra revenue coming in the door for philanthropy. So through the COVID experience, we've had a number of donors that have been very interested in contributing to HARBORVIEW, specifically around the mobile vaccination efforts. We've have a sizable donation from the Paul Allen Foundation, a couple of those, and then John Stanton of the Mariners. Each of them have contributed a couple $1 million to that mobile vaccination effort. So good, all good news there on that front. But then, like I had mentioned before, operating expenses are over budget, specifically over budget in labor, lots of contract labor in-house. And the rate that the traveler, you know, the companies associated with the travelers, IA, can command during COVID has been significantly higher than our normal rate of pay that we would pay that vendor. So because those travelers are in such high demand, those rates are up significantly. You know, we used to pay for acute care, I think we were around $80 an hour that we would pay to IA for that work. And at high points during the COVID, you know, peak COVID census in January, December, we were paying in some cases $200 an hour and couldn't keep people in the house to staff. And as the COVID volume has gone down, those rates are still pretty steep. And so most of that labor variance again is really associated with those higher than usual contract rates to those vendors. And then that higher occupancy, we have to staff those beds. And then we have a little bit of extra expense associated with D1, but really it evened out for the year from a timing perspective. There were some other things IT didn't get to. So that's pretty flat. And then medical expenses are up just a bit because of those higher than budgeted surgical volumes. So all in all, when you net it together, it's a small loss, or let's call it a break even. From where we had budgeted for the year. So it's challenging to say the least. We're certainly not where we would like to be for the year, but given everything that we've experienced this last year with COVID surge, et cetera, this is you know, decent, strong financial performance. So any questions on that, or any questions specific to reimbursement or how we might get paid, or other thoughts this group has?
So Kara, I have a question. How does it look for June? Do we have any idea, like where we'll end up?
I think June is the same story it's been all year. Lots more revenue and lots more expense, and it'll even out, I think, in the end. So it's been interesting. I mean, this time of year for HARBORVIEW, we should be generating really large margins because this is our trauma season. This is when traditionally we are the busiest, when we have the best payer mix. So we make all of our money now because come November, February is when we could easily have months where we lose $5 to $6 million a month. So we try to bank those funds up front so that we can pay for things later in the year. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how next year develops, because we certainly aren't, because of our, you know, our rate of pay at this moment in time and the number of extra staff that we have on hand, it's so expensive. We aren't generating the margins we would normally see this time of year. So it'll just be interesting to see how the year progresses. And we might find ourselves in a situation where we don't slow down as much in the fall either, right? So you might just be on this trajectory where we're about to break even instead of doing this and then doing that, right? So maybe that's what that picture looks like. And it's more of a steady state throughout the year if I were trying to predict what I think might happen. But it's anyone's guess as to, you know, what those volumes will look like this fall as people go back to school, et cetera.
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions from anyone, or if anyone is having trouble unmuting, if you have a question that you want to put in the box, please do so. And I have one other question, Kara. Did we do anything different for this upcoming year based on where we're at this year for our budget, or are we trying to do anything different for from a revenue perspective to try and balance out the ultimate costs of COVID?
Good question. So we do have, I would say the main place where we have budgeted a little bit differently post-COVID is in telemedicine visits. So for those of you involved in the outpatient side of the house, we are running about 20% of our visits now are telemedicine, which actually I think is probably a good thing from a patient perspective, right? Lots of patients might prefer that if they don't have to come to downtown, they might not want to do so. There is a hit to some reimbursement associated with that, so we don't make quite the same reimbursement for that, but in many cases, we've actually seen an increase in volumes because providers can see more patients, generally speaking, in that forum. Neurosurgery is one of the ones that comes to mind. So they've had, quite an increase in telemedicine and a subsequent, pretty decent increase in their number of visits that they can complete with the same number of providers. We've seen a market change. Memory brain wellness is another one where that's been, I think, really beneficial for patients to stay at home if they can, and then just see a provider over the phone. So that's one of the things that we did take into consideration from a budgeting standpoint for next fiscal year. And then we do have our strategic service lines where we hope to see some growth to help generate incremental revenue. And that's definitively in ortho, neuro, and spine. So we know we want to have, continue to grow that neuro volume. We do have quite a bit of volume. And so we look at some of that detail that is non-trauma related. If you look at most of our ortho volume, most of that is trauma related. The neuro volume actually has a pretty decent cut that is non-trauma related and is more elective in nature. So we definitely want to grow those service lines. We did also add outpatient echo capabilities to the cardiology clinic. So we're hoping to grow that as well, so that we can continue to help offset the bottom line where we can. So there's lots of initiatives there. There's also, I don't know if this group is interested in the space component or any of like the mailing building project or the bond. There's a lot happening there with our physical space.
I would love to hear more.
Okay, sure. There's the mailing building bed capacity project, and folks working on the inpatient space might really care about this, but that mailing project has been on the books for the last 5 to 7 years. It's a key strategic project that we know we want to move forward with to get ourselves some more inpatient beds. So when mailing was constructed, we always knew that we would want to, there's 2 floors of clinics within the mailing building. We knew we'd at some point want to convert those to inpatient space. That moment has arrived. Some people would say it arrived 7 years ago. But the plan has been to decant IT out of the NJB building. So that group is actually officially moved off campus. IT is no longer in NJB. They were in the 9th and 10th floors, the entire floors of 9 and 10 NJB. So they have moved out. And we are just in the process right now of conducting stakeholder interviews and getting an architect and design team on board to move mailing 4 and 7 out of mailing and into the NJB building. So those 2 whole floors of clinics will move over, and then that will create the capacity for 40 additional inpatient beds within the mailing building. So it's a great chance for us for all kinds of reasons. I think from a patient-facing standpoint, just being in NJB for clinic purposes is so much easier. If anybody's in a clinic in mailing today, that we're kind of scattering patients to the wind. If they need to get labs or radiology, they have to go all throughout the hospital. So the idea would be in NJB, they park in NJB, they go up to the 3rd floor, get some radiology, maybe some blood draws, then they continue on up and they can go to their clinic, perhaps pre-anesthesia, we would get them over there as well. So there's a lot of benefit for the patients to keeping them in one building for that outpatient service. And then obviously, of course, 40 beds can't get here soon enough on the inpatient side. And so we would begin our planning to think about, which units would move over to the mailing space. But right now we're really heavily invested in getting those clinics moved over successfully. So we've been conducting stakeholder interviews with each of the key service lines to say, here's where we think you will go in the new building. Here's where we think, here's who we think your new neighbor will be. Are you okay with that? Would you like a different neighbor? We can't accommodate everyone, of course, but the idea is to get it, you know, better than it is now today, certainly, and try to accommodate requests where we can. So that work is underway. That construction project will start up probably this fall, and we hope to have it complete by late next year. Those clinics could be moving over. So the timeline is upon us, which is fabulous, because we also have the bond, all of the work associated with the 2020 bond as well. And that work encompasses a whole new bed tower located on the View Park site. But the delivery of that project is probably 7 to 8 years away. If we can work our way through that process and getting all of the right permitting in place to be able to build something on that View Park garage. So we view the mailing project as more of a shorter term solution to get ourselves some beds while we bought our time, and continue to work on that new bed tower associated with the bond. Any other thoughts or questions on that? Okay. Hopefully we'll have more information on that as the year progresses. And if you think of anything else later and you want to ask Kelly, feel free to pass your questions along. I'm happy to get back to you. And then Kelly, also congratulations on your resounding success for your resiliency program with the pet day with the dogs. I couldn't hear enough good things about it.
Well, thank you. Just keep it coming.
It was the happiest I've ever seen the safety huddle the day that Kelly brought all those dogs to the campus for pet therapy. I've never seen that group so happy. So nice work.
Well, thanks very much. It was a great initiative, and we're hoping to do it more often.
Yeah, super.
So, thank you.
Okay.
And thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. I think we just need to get you on the books more often. It's really nice to hear about the updates and what's happening from a bigger picture. So thank you so much.
Yep.
Really
No
appreciate
worries.
it.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.
And just a plug for the medical director monthly meetings. So she does present kind of updates on a regular basis. And they do talk about the mailing changes and the bond too.
Yeah, that is, in fact, that comes up, I believe it is next Wednesday at noon, no, next Tuesday, excuse me, the 27th at noon. You know, for those of you that haven't attended that meeting, I highly encourage it. It's an opportunity to hear from our Chief Executive Summer. It's an opportunity to hear from Kira, Rick Goss, and just kind of get the lay of the land from the medical staff side of things. So highly recommend that people go. If you found that you might not be getting the link or the invite, just let me know and I'll reach out to Anita in Dr. Goss's office and make sure you're on the adjunct staff or adjunct faculty mailing list.
All right, we'll continue. Our next update is requesting time off for CME. We had a lot of last minute requests, and so we'd like to kind of spread them out throughout the year a little better. And then also make the last day to request time off for CME May 1st of this next year. That gives the 6 weeks warning of requesting the CME time.
Michelle, is there a way now to do that in Chronos, or are we still doing the jury duty thing?
I don't
Still
think that-
during the jury duty thing.
okay.
There's a code that we can't put in. It's a tracking code for education time and for jury duty time that can't be entered by staff. It has to be entered by the timekeeper. But you can certainly still request the time and then put a note in the time, or just make sure you let Michelle or Jenny know that you want to take continuing ed hours, and then Melissa or whoever is the timekeeper can add that tracking code of education time off.
Okay, thank you.
Vaccinations. You must be fully vaccinated with COVID-19 or claim an exemption no later than Friday, September 10th. If you're already vaccinated through the UW where you went to one of our vaccination clinics, you don't need to do anything. But if you went through your doctor's office, even UW's doctor's office, there's a way to submit proof through the portal, and that's the link to it there.
Hey, Michelle, this is Jemmy. I was just wondering if the leads have any involvement in making sure that employees have done that, or who's going to be kind of monitoring that?
As far as I know, you're not required to tell your coworkers that you're vaccinated. I think this is going to be an upper level kind of checks. Kelly, can you verify that?
I think it's going to be, yeah, thank you. Good question, Jemmy. I think the historically it's been manager, director, and above that have access to that information. So I think what will happen is, at least on the inpatient side, that Jenny will be kind of keeping track of that, and then reaching out to you and the other leads to help navigate that with staff. It's really, to be honest with you, it's no different from the flu vaccine where you have to be, the expectation is 100% compliance with adherence. And that adherence isn't necessarily the vaccine itself, it's adherence with either getting the vaccine or doing the declination. So please just do it. It's so much easier. It's such a time saver than having folks reaching out to people and reminding them to get that taken care of.
Thank you. Just some general vaccination updates. The clinics are starting to kind of slow down. They did 276 from June 29th to July 3rd. So they're definitely coming down. And so the clinic, the vaccination clinics will start to be open just 11 to 3. Actually, now already July 10th, they started just 11 to 3 on Saturdays. And then we've started integrating into several clinics. I know adult, family, pediatrics, and Pioneer Square Aftercare Clinic have also started doing regular vaccinations of COVID. And then they are eventually, it sounds like they're going to integrate into the emergency room once they get the EPIC build complete, and inpatient as well. The mobile teams are continuing to vaccinate. And I don't realize you guys realize this, but it's like, it's such a privilege to have a mobile team go out into the community, because there's areas in Washington where people can't get the vaccine. There's no mobile unit to go to them. And I feel really fortunate we work for a place that's doing that. Competencies, they are coming up. We're asking that you complete the competencies 10 days before they're due. It just allows some leeway. We start getting emails on following up, making sure everyone's getting it done. So we did have some kind of late people last year, so we just want really to give people the opportunity to get these done in a timely manner. The first one is the annual refresher, which is due October 1st. So that's coming up actually, no, I'm sorry. The compliance annual training is due September 20th. So that's about 4 weeks, I can't count, 8 weeks away. So it comes up fast. And if you missed the brown bags, we are recording them, and then we do send out the PowerPoints. They are both on the website. So you can actually, once this finishes, I'll upload today the brown bag video so that you can watch it later, or your colleagues who couldn't make it, they can watch it, because you're still responsible for the information that's being put out in these brown bags. All right, any questions about anything?
Michelle, just really quickly, did we cover inpatient? I know you had brought some stuff up with inpatient time off, outpatient time off.
Did we miss inpatient?
I think Kara came right at that time.
Okay. Yeah, just a reminder for inpatient that each department may have a different protocol that's longer, but the minimum time to request time off is 4 weeks before your desired date. Does anyone have questions on that?
Actually, Michelle, I was just curious, this is Aspen. Is there some sort of requirement for you guys as to how, like if we request it in advance, how long do you guys have to respond? Because if I'm requesting 4 weeks in advance and I need to get a plane ticket, I don't want to wait until a week before I have to fly out. So is there some sort of time frame that you guys are responsible for responding?
No, there isn't a time frame, but I know I've been a little bit slower to respond or to approve some of those requests that have been coming through. And so if you don't hear from me, feel free to email or to text me, but I will try to do those in a little bit more of a timely manner moving forward.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I think, Aspen, that's a really good question. And thank you, Jenny, too. One thing we do want to make sure, though, is if, this doesn't often happen, but if people are requesting Christmas off, 2 weeks into January, that we can expect is going to take a little longer, because we really need to make sure that we're not saying yes to somebody who's taking Christmas off every year and then a partner instead wants to take it off that year. So those will probably take a little bit longer, so that we can be fair for the holidays with everyone. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
And actually, the other thing that's the same is it for CME, if you're going to be traveling out of state, just let us know, because the CME form does say that your associate administrator needs to sign off on that. So for inpatient, it's Jerome. Outpatient, it would be the new person that started, or Mark Taylor if you're in the emergency department, those folks. If you let us know that you need to get an airplane or a hotel reservation, etc., I usually try and reach out to Jerome right away, to make sure that those will be approved. And so maybe the signatures don't get done at that moment, but the approval does, so people can buy the airline tickets, because I know people want to use that money as judiciously as possible. And if you can get an earlier, or if you can get a cheap fare because you can get the flight early, I really want to make that happen.
All right. Is anyone sharing screen that's not coming up on my screen? Oh, let's see, Sarah White. I see an iPhone, but I don't see a name. If you're calling from your iPhone.
Yeah, this is Paula Kiss.
Hi, Paula.
Hi.
Good to see you. Well, hear you.
Thank you.
All right. So many of you know from last year, I do have season tickets to the Seahawks, and I have some preseason tickets that I am very happy to share. We play the Denver Broncos August 21st and then August 28th, and I have 28 people. Kelly, do you want to pick a number between 1 and 28?
17.
17 is Elisa Lombard. Elisa, are you going to be able to attend? Are you able to attend one or the other game?
Which days are they? Sorry.
The August 21st or August 28th?
August 21st is a Saturday.
They're both Saturdays. Is that?
And August 28th is a Saturday, yes.
I could not do the 21st, but could do the 28th.
All right, so it looks like you get to go see the Los Angeles Chargers. So now let's pick a number again. Kelly, 1 through 28.
All right, let's do 7.
7. Diane Wheeler.
Hi, Michelle. That's
Hey.
fun. I'm free that day, I think.
The 21st to go to Denver.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Do
All
it.
right, guys.
All right, Diane, I'm free too. Just in case.
Awesome.
So awesome, guys. I don't get to go to much games anymore with a 10-year-old who doesn't like the Seahawks, unfortunately. So as the season goes on, we'll see if I have some more to give away. I think that's all we have. Or if you have any last questions or comments about things.
I do, Michelle. I just want to say thank you. That was really generous, and congratulations to Diane and Elisa. That was really nice of you. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. The pre-seasons they're fun, but I can't go. I'm very sad, but it's still good. I want pictures though, so that we can have for the department to see.
That would be awesome.
All right. Looks like we get to end a little early today.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too,
Bye.
Aspen. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Michelle.
Jenny, do you want to?
Thanks, Michelle.
Oh, Jenny already left. I was going to see if she wanted to stay on. Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah,